I just wanted to give the context of your position. Like you are a long-term believer in the broader Tesla story, right? Your concern and what you go on to say about the board in particular is that this political fight between Elon Musk and the president is not to the benefit of the company. Have I got that right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's horrific for the company, to be honest.
Have you done the actual math, Ross? Because what's interesting is I think JP Morgan analysts have said maybe about 40% of profits are exposed here to regulatory shifts and the landscape. Do you think that's as much as we could see a dent of? Is it more or less than that?
No, I think it could be much more detrimental because when you look at pricing of EVs, like Teslas in particular, there's a severe supply and demand imbalance because the demand for Tesla has dropped off. And so people don't really want the cars, and the discounts that they get through the $7,500 credit is a substantial amount of money relative to, let's say, a $40,000 car. So the typical Tesla buyer is actually sort of like a millennial. So these price increases definitely are bad. And when you go into areas like I'm in Europe now, I mean, the hate for Elon is huge. You know, I'm in Italy, where this was a country that, you know, Americans fought and died to end fascism here, and had a horrible experience under Berlusconi, which is like a billionaire like Musk. And so people are just, you know, done with it. So this is just another like nail in the coffin, which I tweeted, that really is going to hurt Tesla, and I'm very upset about it. Yeah. You know, I just think this is totally unnecessary.
I mean, I think we can bring up what you've been posting a little bit earlier, Ross, but I'm really interested as to the latest breaking news out of Bloomberg has been that Elon has helped reassert himself into the sales role in Europe, in the US, of Tesla. Now, do you think that's a good move? Do you want him more involved? Or is it the fact that, you know, if he's impacting the way people feel in Italy and around the EU, is that a good thing or no?
Well, there's no Teslas in Italy. I mean, they're not selling any here. I've seen a handful at most, and I've driven all over the place, you know. And, you know, the way I look at it is this. Elon has a talent, obviously, and he's a very successful engineer, and in manufacturing has built Tesla up into being a huge company. But from a marketing and media perspective, he's destroyed his image. And the more involved he is, it's actually worse from a marketing perspective. And especially because he's not coming out and saying, hey, you know, I'm sorry for, you know, sort of pissing off everybody. I've been wrong, you know, about Trump, and, you know, please buy my cars. It's more just fighting and political infighting, and then threatening to start another party. You know, you're at this kind of point where it's like, what is this guy doing? You know, like, you're supposed to be selling cars and robo-taxis, and instead we're in a fight with the president of the United States, which he enabled and helped empower. But I'm sorry, Elon, President Trump is way more powerful than you. I mean, he's literally bombing Iran, and you're messing with this guy. So it's just, quite frankly, it's stupid.
Ross, Musk has been consistent through social media posts, videos, that he's okay with the idea that subsidies, in particular direct consumer subsidies, go away, because he argues Tesla has this lower cost base and pricing power. And the president, obviously his comments dispute that. You know, he keeps claiming that Elon is upset. What do you think about the doing away with subsidies and how Tesla's position in the market would be impacted?
Well, it turns out that Tesla real competition isn't as much EVs as it turns out to be like hybrid vehicles, like the Audi I'm driving here in Italy, which is actually a great vehicle, and it gets about twice the gas mileage that a regular gas car would get. It's not an EV, so it doesn't have the same benefit. But when you actually look at competition just on a regular basis of all vehicles, you know, there's lots of choices consumers have, and many of them are energy efficient, even if they're not EVs. And they're making those choices, and we're seeing in the numbers. Not to mention, we're seeing EV sales, like in Europe, actually soar, and it's just not Tesla. So this idea that it's not going to hurt Tesla because the benefits are taken away, you know, is really just, again, it just doesn't make any sense, and it goes against the fundamental theories of economics. So making the car more expensive means less people will buy it. It's simple as that. And they already have a hard time selling the car.
Ross, I see on the Bloomberg terminal that Gerber Kawasaki had around 235,000 shares as of the end of March, and that you'd been a seller of the stock. And I just point that out to the audience, because when I said you were coming on, some people say, well, Gerber Kawasaki doesn't even hold any shares at all. So I'm putting that out there. in your post on X, you cited the board. The idea that Elon Musk's political statements are not helpful is not unique to you. Others share it. Have you had anything from the board, or do you have any sense if the board has any plan to act on this?
No, they're not going to do anything. And we all know that they are all paid by Elon and work for Elon. It's not an independent board. Delaware courts have said this over and over again. There's been one change to the board since they did have one independent board member recently. But, the fact of the matter, they're not going to do anything about it. And I think there's some confusion. I run an ETF, GK ETF, and we sold our Tesla yesterday. We had a small position left, and that's just the one small part of what we manage. We manage over $3.5 billion for clients at Gerber Kawasaki, and many of them are big, long-time Tesla diehard shareholders, and that's who I really represent. They love Tesla. Like, I love Tesla. But Elon is not doing what's best for us shareholders. So we still have, I checked yesterday, over $60 million in Tesla stock for our clients. And that's what I'm advocating for, because I personally have sold a lot of my personal position. I still own some personally. My cost basis is $2.50 a share. So I like keeping some shares just because it was one of the best trades of my life. But, I just don't see, with a valuation of 150 times earnings, when you have Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Google and Meta all trading under, let's say, 40 or 30 PEs, what's the justification for this valuation? Robots and a robo-taxi that doesn't really work? It just seems like there's a big disconnect here, and eventually this reckoning will come as the stock market ultimately does work these things out. So, I caution investors, there's going to be a cost at some time for all this, and it maybe hasn't happened yet. Even though the stock is down 25% this year, you could easily see the stock drop in half if this continues. So I'm very concerned about the future of Tesla and for my shareholders. So that's why I'm at Hyde here, and that's why I advocate on behalf of Tesla shareholders.